I'm Janet Smith, the Arts and Style Editor at the Georgia Straight. And of course, we had a huge week this week with our Best of Vancouver issue. On the style front, what we do every year is ask local designers and retailers and hairdressers and beauty consultants and so on to sort of pick their best, because we know they have the inside track on what's going on in the city. So if you look at our Best of issue this week, you'll see Melissa Ferreira. She is the designer behind the label called Adhesive Designs and Adhesive Clothing, I think it's called. And it's all constructed from sort of salvaged and reused materials, and it's really bright and vibrant. So she's all about sort of eco-friendly fashion, and as you might expect, she's got some great tips for vintage stores in the city, because she used to be a thrifter herself and still looks for vintage stuff all the time. Some of her finds include True Value Vintage, which has moved over to Main Street. Used Vintage was another one that she tagged. And she said Erin Templeton, who makes bags down in Gastown, also has a really nicely curated small collection of vintage in her store. So those were some real finds from her. Other people that we talked to are Nicole Lefevre. She's a hairdresser. We talked to Jennifer Gray. She owns a boutique called Jenny Fleur Loves, and she also drives around a sort of purpley milk truck that she's turned into a portable boutique. You'll see it sometimes at fairs around town, in Yaletown, that type of thing. So it's sort of like a fashion food truck. It doesn't have food in it, but it's that same idea of portable fashion. Other finds that I really liked in there were Anna DeCourcy jewelry. That was one that was tagged as the best jeweler in town, the best accessories designer. Other designers include Elika Designs that they told us about. So check it out. It's got some smaller labels and designers that you might not have heard of before. Elsewhere in style, it's IDS West all this weekend. You should go down and check it out. Among the attractions down there, it's the interior design show that they do every year at the Vancouver Convention Center. And this year they have an attraction called The District. And it's all focused on mostly local handmade home goods. And you'll find things like felted bowls and paper origami lanterns and things like that, just real one-of-a-kind items. So that's something to check out there. Other attractions they've got is something called Studio North. It's a profile and display of Canadian designers who make things for the home. A lot of furnishings there, really cool and contemporary, a lot of wood. Check that one out. And then there's going to be other things like a little fashion show by Men's Fashion Week, and of course all the regular booths by design studios and homeware places around town, including Montauk and a bunch more. So you can check that out all weekend at the Vancouver Convention Center. And one more big thing in design news that we profiled in our Best of Vancouver is Omer Arbel. He's a very well-known lighting designer here in town, and he's scored a major coup. He works as the head designer at Bocce, which is a store here in town that makes beautiful, contemporary, unusual lighting. And he was just recruited to create a massive new light installation at London in the UK's museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum. So we profile him as one of the best designers in the city, and we show you what this massive installation looks like. Huge tangled wires and pieces of multicolored blown glass that he's created for this huge atrium at this very famous museum in London. So pick up the Best of Vancouver and you'll find out all that's going on in design this week. So in the arts section this week, we talk about a play that's going on down at the Fire Hall Arts Center. And for anyone interested in politics, this is your night to go out to the theater. It's called You Should Have Stayed Home, and it's actually a true story about a Toronto actor named Tommy Taylor, who was arrested during 2010's G20 summits. And it's kind of an interesting play because what he does is he actually creates the cage that he and a whole bunch of other protesters were kept in for 23 hours in the freezing cold, apparently, in Toronto. So it is storytelling. He gets up there on stage and talks about about what happened. I guess he was just walking around Toronto, kind of more curious about the protests that would be going on during the G20 summits when he was arrested. And from there, I guess he was handcuffed. He was put in this cage in this huge building and kept there in a very crowded cell. And the whole point of the thing is that how could this go on in Canada? And he just happened to be a theater artist and playwright. So the natural way for him to create this, to speak about what happened to him, was to create a play about it. So that's down at the Fire Hall Arts Center. And you'll be interested to know that the people that join him in the Cage on Stage are all community volunteers. So in every city he goes to, he sort of puts a call out for people to join him in this cage. He feels it's necessary for people to actually see what it's like for that many people to be crowded in the exact amount of space that he was put in. So he wants to give you a very visceral idea of what it was like to be arrested during the G20. So that's definitely one of the shows to catch this week if you're out on the theater scene.